Hello. Surprise, surprise. I said I wouldn't stream today, and here I am. Well, the date didn't happen, so here we are. Hi, Fishy. Welcome back. As always. So yeah. Good news, I can stream today, at least a little bit. We would have started earlier, but I did something else, which is also good news. I found a solution, I think, to my issue from 2 days ago. That's what I did like the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes or whatever. Was walking in circles in my room here and figuring out a solution to this. And I think I found one. So yeah, I'm not sure how to. Do I want to visualize that? Can I visualize it? I don't know. I mean, I could write down the steps, I guess. Text. Not down there. What are you doing? Actually, I'm gonna do it in Notion. Boop. Let's do a new page. Let's keep the others open. So, page, right down, get generate next step. So we're gonna do some pseudocode here. I mean, basically, well, I came to the conclusion that there are two ways, or two things I could do. I could either say, you know what, this is all way too complicated, and decide for a certain ground rules I want to implement for, and have a fairly straightforward algorithm, or I find the generic solution. Well, I found the generic solution, so I'm probably gonna stick to that. Which is a little bit like, I just realized it's not very consequent. Like, no, what's the word? Well, is that the word? It's consequent in German. But it's not consequent in English. I don't think. What's that? Consistent. There we go. Well, consequent apparently works as well. Okay. So it's not very consistent decision making so far. Because well, I settled for a few other things as well. Like I said, this is going to be 2D, which is a pretty strict limitation already. So why not limit a few other core aspects of the game as well so far? But well, I now found a good solution. I think it's not actually that complicated. If I find it too hard to implement later on, or too hard to use, then I'm gonna still can ditch it and settle for something more simple. But I think it's actually viable, so I'm gonna go with it. But now that I thought about it, I kind of regret not limiting myself to 2D. Yeah, but I don't know. I could have just write the core classes a little bit more generic to allow for 3D or maybe 4D, and then just limit myself by the implementation later. But I don't know. I can probably still hack that in later on, maybe. I don't know. Hey, Nirmer? How do you pronounce that? Nirmer? I don't know. Welcome to the stream. I think you were a follower like a few hours ago. Yeah, you followed where I was offline. Thank you. So yeah, so here's my pseudocode. Basically, first step, create all actions. I should probably write down what an action is. Let's do that first. Action. Something happening in the factory. E.g., an item moving from A to B. always as a source. Well, not necessarily, but well, yeah, I guess. Always as a source that determines. 1 second. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Fishy asks what kind of soldier I would be because he wants to add me in his XCOM squad. Probably. Okay, if I play FPS games like 2-Pers's, I'm a terrible sniper, but I usually prefer long range engagement, just not super long range. Besides that, I would probably be like a techie or something. Like in XCOM, there is a class that has like special equipment and stuff, right? If I remember correctly, it's a long time. It's been a long time. Isn't there an engineer or something? No, not engineer, but specialist or something? I don't know. Probably something along those lines. Or something with a long-range assault rifle. So an action is something that happens in a factory. It has a source which also determines its priority. Also is the wrong word here. What is that in English? Among other things. Yeah, okay. Priority among. Well, no. Also is fine actually. It's better. Yeah, I think because it's not quite what I want to say. Well, among other things, it's not what I want to say. So basically, an action is, for example, like if I have like a conveyor belt, it's gonna generate an action to move the item which is on top of the the conveyor belt. Actions can spawn other actions. Actions can create other actions. An item pushing another one. So I create all actions, including actions created by other actions. So that's the first step. Now I have a list of actions which have priorities. Second step, create or determine dependencies for all actions. So dependency what is the index here? There we go. What, really? So a dependency is an action can depend on another action, or it can depend on other actions happening or not happening. So basically, I go through all the actions now, and create dependencies depending on the action. So if the action is move the item from A to B, then I have probably multiple dependencies. I'm gonna look for other actions. I'm going to create those dependencies by looking at the other, at the rest of the actions. So on all the other actions. I'm going to look at the list of all the other actions or all the actions. So if I have an action that moves an item from A to B, it needs, it has an. Well, let's make an example. E.g. action that moves item from A to B. It will have multiple dependencies. First of all, all actions that will move an item to B must not happen. If B is blocked, or if there is an item on B right now, any action that moves B, that moves the item away from B, potentially, or maybe in a certain direction even, must happen. Also, no action, or right, the same as the thing above. Well, let's swap the things around. All actions that would move the item and have a higher priority than this action must not happen. So, and there's potentially another one. If this action is created by another action, that other action has to happen, or must happen. So let's go through them step by step. If there's an item on B right now, so B is actually blocked right now at the start of the step, then an action must happen that moves B away, that moves the item away from B. This could potentially be an action like, remember that actions can create other actions. So if I have my conveyor that is pushing my item from A to B, then this push might create another action if B is occupied already, which moves that item from B to C or whatever. So this is a different action. I consider this a different action, and that could potentially be the one that is being found here that will match, that will move the other action away, that will move the item away from B. That was a little bit complicated. Let's try it again. So I have a conveyor that moves that's supposed to move an item from A to B. So I'm going to create an action for it, and then also will consequently check if B is already occupied, and if that's the case, create an action for the item on B to move to C. And if C is occupied as well, I'm going to create another action for the item on C to move to D, and so on. Okay, now I'm going to check the dependencies for my current action. Well, first I create all the actions, and then I'm going to go through all the actions. And now let's go back to that initial action, and check the dependencies. And if B is blocked, then I have one action that moves the item from B away has to happen. This could be the action we created earlier, that is the push action that moves the item from B to C. Could also be a different action that, I don't know, destroys the item there or moves it from B to the side or whatever. in another direction. Obviously, it can't be one that pushes the thing in there, I guess. I probably have to find a special dependency for that as well, maybe. I don't know. Might be covered. I'm not going to go... That's a solvable problem. I'm not going to think about that right now. So that's obvious. B has to be free, or I can't move there. So then all actions that would move something to B must not happen. Same reason. If B is blocked, then, well, no. Oh, wait, actually, it's not all actions that will move an item to B and have a higher priority than this action. Because if they have lower priority, I'm just gonna not call it a dependency, because they were gonna depend on this one, but I'm not gonna depend on them. Because I have to, yeah. I'm not even sure if I need this check, because... Yeah, I probably need it, because else I can't resolve the dependencies later on. So yeah. So we move now. So so there must not be an action happening that moves something to B that has a higher priority than the action I'm looking at right now, because then that would block B and I can't move something there, the item there. Also, I want to move the item from A to B, but if there is a different action with a higher priority that would move the item from A to C or whatever, or destroy the item, then that action must obviously also not happen, or my current action cannot happen. So that's a dependency as well. And if this action is created by another action, so we're talking not from the initial move from A to B by the conveyor, but we're talking about the push from the item that's on B, from B to C, then the action that is spawning this one actually also has to happen, because if the conveyor is not pushing anything from A to B, then the item will not be, the other item on B will not be pushed from B to C, right? So that's an example for an action. That's going to be pretty basic, or not basic, but it's going to be one of the default actions, I imagine. There might potentially be other actions with other dependencies. The important thing here being that an action always that an action how should I say that the action always can itself determine by which, like, the action has to be defined in a way that it has rules like these, so it can itself know what it depends on. It can create its own dependencies when it gets a list of actions. So the action, like I'm going to have an iAction interface, and every implementation of that interface has to have a set of rules that allows it to give it to determine like what other actions am I depending on if it's given a list of actions. So that's the important thing here. Now that I determine all the dependencies, step 3, for every action, try to resolve dependencies for every action. The cool thing about this whole thing is that the order doesn't matter. All of this can be done in any order, which means it's really, I can really efficiently parallelize it later on. Like, the order of these main steps have to be in order, is important obviously, but the order in one of those steps is not, so I can parallelize the steps, not the steps themselves, but like I can do step 2 for all actions at the same time, or for multiple ones at the same time, and the same is true for step 3. And step 1 as well, actually. So that's cool. So all 3 steps can be parallelized for every action. So I have to resolve the dependencies for every action, which means, well, if all dependencies are true, the action can happen. If one dependency is false, the action cannot happen. And So yeah, those are rules. How do we determine this? Basically, we go recursively through the dependencies. How do I write this down? We go recursively through the dependencies and check if the dependency is resolved. So I guess we write it down a little different. Well, we write this all first as things. So what we do now is like that those are the rules. What is happening now is for every dependency, or we write down like a, let's see, check. If the dependent, how do you write that? Dependent, oh, okay. Action is not happening by recursively checking. Guess we don't need numbers here really. Checking the dependencies of that action. For the recursive call, pass a list of pass the current list of dependencies, or list is the wrong word, like the current path dependencies as a parameter to find or to detect circular dependency paths. Now, what do you do? If the currently checked action is part of the dependency path already, a circular dependency path. Oh, god damn it, I'm too stupid to write this word. Dependency path is found and can be resolved if the action, if the dependency, well, can be resolved either by saying it can happen or not happen. I don't know how to write this down. Like basically, so let's say we have like this dependency path, right? So the original action we talked about up here that moves item from A to B relies on the other action that moves the item from B to C, which depends on that action, and that depends on the action that moves the item from C to D. Well, that's not a circular. I'm not getting a circular reference here, but okay. Let's just assume we have a different example. So basically, we have our first action depending on the fact that let's just, yeah, I'm just going to call them ABC again, but let's ignore this example. So let's go to a new example. It's just going to be abstract though. So we have an action A. It depends on action B happening, and B depends on action C happening, and action C depends on action A happening. If we now go recursively through those, then we're gonna get to C at some point, or we're gonna come back to A at some point and realize, hey, A is in this dependency path already. So A can happen if A happens. Cool. So A can happen. Resolved. Different example would be if A depends on B happening and B depends on C happening and C depends on A not happening, then we get also a circular dependency, which we can also resolve, but we resolve it by cannot happen because now A depends on A not happening. So A can only happen if A doesn't happen, which, yeah, is a contradiction. Not happen, dependent on whether there is or it is a tautology or a contradiction, basically. Diction. That's a not A, right? Okay. So this might not be super clear to someone who just reads this, but I think it's gonna be enough for me to remember what I wanted to do. And with my explanation, it's hopefully enough for you to understand as well. And now we're done, because this can always, if I'm not mistaken, this is always solvable. Like, you cannot create a situation where you cannot resolve all the dependencies this way. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong, and if that happens, I'm gonna cry. But I think I can always do it this way. Because, yeah, it should just always work, I think. So I think I can always resolve all the dependencies. If I have all the dependencies resolved, I know if the actions can happen or not. Simple as that. And as I said, it's pretty cool that each step in it of itself is independent for all the actions. So I can paralyze it if I want to. Even though I'm not quite sure if actually paralyzing it might be good, because it might be easier for step 3, or might be more performant for step 3 to save some of the results. Like, because I'm gonna go through all the other actions and see if they can happen or not. And I probably don't want to do this multiple times. Well, maybe you can do that recursively anyway, but not parallelized probably. Well, I don't know. I can figure that out when I get there, but in theory this should work. So I'm gonna find a solution to implement that. It should not be an issue. Okay, cool. So far so good. The only fear I have about this is that that the method is called generate next step, right? Yeah. The fear I have about this is that it will make implementing simple things a little bit complicated, because I have to get these rule sets down. But I think I can probably get those rule sets in a few base classes, or not base classes, but in a few like separate classes. If I do it properly, I don't have to. It's probably gonna be done fairly. Like, I have to do it once, and I can reuse it every time. Like, basically, yeah, because most actions are gonna be of this kind anyway. Like, most of the actions are just gonna be move item from A to B with different priorities. So I can get very far already if I just write one basic action that takes a priority as a parameter, or not, like that takes a yeah, a parameter, an A, a B, and an item as a parameter, and I can implement a lot with that already. So I only have to write down those rules once, or implement those rules once, and it should be good. Oh yeah, to implement those rules, by the way, I'm probably gonna have to give the actions some sort of properties or tags, like a property like is gonna block this tile, or something along those lines, or it's gonna move something from this tile in this direction, or something it's gonna free up this tile in this direction, or whatever, something along those lines probably, so I can actually implement those rules properly. But I can worry about that when I get there, which is probably soon, now that I think about it. But yeah, it's not important for the overall algorithm, but it's a thing I probably have to do. And there would be different ways of implementing that, but I think properties is a good way of doing that. Okay, cool. So far so good. So what does this mean? Well, first of all, it means that this is not actually done yet. Or this is not done yet. So now the cool thing is I think this is generic enough to actually be able to implement whatever we talked about 2 days ago, like all the situations and all the different rule sets I can come up with. Because this is actually cool enough or generic enough that it would work in a 3D environment as well, or a 4D environment, for that matter. So this is super duper generic, which might be too much in the end, but I don't know. It's gonna be a fun challenge to implement that, so. Okay. What does this mean for my implementation now? Obviously, structures. I mean, they can still have an activate method. No, probably not. No, they will not have an. Well, first of all, we're gonna get rid of structures and resources, I think, because I don't see a reason to separate the two. You can still do that later. Like there might still be a good reason. For example, because it's blah mentioned that in a YouTube comment. There might be a good reason to separate them later, because you might have something like there are structures which are on the ground and there are resources which are on top of the structures, because it's 2D, right? And you want to separate the things that can be on top of the other ones. Maybe, but that depends a little bit. You could always also do it differently. Like in Infinity Factory, you're allowed to move conveyor belts around. So why I could also have something like maybe not conveyors on conveyors, because that would probably be very confusing. But like a pusher that moves a conveyor around, why not? So why would the conveyor be a structure and any different than a resource or something? So I'm just gonna yeah, get rid of these interfaces. Well, merge them to one. I'm unsure how to name it though. Structure, not good. Resource, not good. Item, not good. Factory item. Pionactory item. I don't know. I'm bad with names. When I might just call it item and be good with it. I mean, I think I'm gonna do that. Fuck it. It's in a Pionactory namespace. It can be called item and mean something specific. That's fine. I think that's fine. I mean, it is very generic. It's a thing in the factory. Sure, it's an item. What else would it be? We could call it I something. I mean, I could now, however, I could separate them. because not all of them are gonna create actions, right? So because one of the methods I have to give the interface now is like create actions method. And I could say that some of them don't, but what's the point of that really? I can just make it a create actions and it returns an enumerable, and if that enumerable is empty, well then that's it. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So I'm gonna delete the resource, I think. It's an empty interface so far anyway. Very boring. And I'm gonna rename the structure to item. Do I still want it to be comparable to itself? Probably. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not. No, I don't have to order them. I don't care for their order really. No. No, the actions have to be ordered. No, well, not necessarily. They need a priority. They don't need that to be ordered. I think we get rid of the comparability, and we get rid of this method as well and replace it with something else, which we can't do yet because we don't have the action interface yet, which we're gonna need in a second. So, but first let's fix all the code. You're gonna call something else in a minute. No, we're gonna keep this. Let's keep this for the moment, for the time being. I think I can get rid of these tests completely. Can I reuse them? I mean, I can at least check if all of their methods are being called and whatnot. I mean, these are still true. These hold. This is a lot of brackets. Yeah, wait, this is really ugly formatted. What did I do here? There we go. Do these still hold true? Probably. I'm gonna comment them out because I'm probably gonna need them. Need something similar moment to fix all the things though. So the tile shouldn't have resources anymore. Okay, who else breaks? Fishy writes, you just won your first mission and didn't die. Actually the second time, but in the first case the game forgot to spawn enemies. It forgot to spawn enemies? What? No, I'm a successful XCOM soldier now. Don't let me die.
Hello everyone, this is the woodworking gamer.
Fishy says, by the way, you said your game gonna be more on the puzzle side and not the spaceship side. No, I never said that. I think those things are not exclusive. I want a more puzzly gameplay than Factorio. Like Factorio is more like, I don't know. I don't have a good term for it, but Factorio is more like, well, survival, I guess, or I don't know, something. I want more like a puzzly element to the game. So I guess Factorio has that in a way as well. I don't know. I just want the gameplay to be kind of similar to Infinifactory when it comes to the core mechanics, but I still can do that in a spaceship, right? So the idea is that between the different encounters, you have basically a custom or a somewhat procedurally generated Infinifactory level, because like you get your ship and you have certain items and whatnot, and you're trying to optimize it for most effective spaceship ever. And then you get in the next encounter, fight an enemy, maybe lose something because it got destroyed, or get some loot, so get new stuff. So before the next encounter, you're going back to optimizing your ship again with the new requirements. So that's the idea basically. You evolve your factory depending on what you get or lose, and every time you do that, you're doing an optimization challenge, basically, which should have a similar feel to optimizing a level in Infinifactory. That's the idea. But it's still a long way out, obviously. So, tiles are equatable? Oh, the test tiles are, I guess. The test structure should probably... Also, I had an idea how to simplify this like a ton. Forgot how I wanted to do it though, but it was super... No, wait, that was super simple. I think I just... Still, methods still here. Yeah, I can just do test structure. Not wait. God damn it. It's different now. It's item. And test structure is now an item, so that's fine. We can get rid of this completely and say item. We're good. We just have to do test structure here, which you also have to rename, obviously. No, wait. Actually, we don't need to compare to a thing anymore, so we can get rid of this anyway. We probably don't. I don't know if we even need this class anymore. I'm gonna keep it here, but I don't know if I need it, especially not with an ID, probably. Let's just delete it for the moment because I don't need it at all. And I can just write a new one when I need one. Okay, so anywhere in code, still structure. iTile still has structures. This should be called items. Yeah, the odd commented code, that's fine. I renamed that already. Anywhere resources. 1S, 2S? I always forget. 1S, right? Yeah. In German is 2S. Okay. So everything deleted. Still have an error here. Okay, unit tests are running. Oh yeah, live unit testing doesn't update these. Fortunate. Okay. Merged I resource and I structure to I item. Okay, now the I item needs a new method, which I'm gonna. Oh no! First we need a new interface. I do have a dependency issue here anyway. Version check analyzer. What does this mean? Analyzer version mismatch. What? Whatever. So a new interface called I action. And the item now gets a method that returns an enumerable. Oops, that was the wrong using. Well, of I action. Why does it not? Action, generate actions. And it probably wants the factory as a parameter, I assume. I think that makes sense. Because for the item to know what it is actually doing, it needs to know what's happening around it. So yeah, it needs the factory. Inconsistent accessible. I didn't make that public. There we go. And now I need the factory to do something here. Fuck it, we do it new. We're just gonna do it clean. Public void generate or generate next step all actions generated or generate actions called. We need a bunch of items. And then we create. Oh wait, actually no, give me the code back. Because that was actually useful code, I just remember. There we go. That's actually useful code. We create the coordinate, like the tile set, or the tiles with the items on top of it with the coordinates that are actually in there. And now we have to, actually I should not have deleted all of this. This was actually useful code. I'm an idiot. I don't have to sort them though. Call to generate actions with the argument being the factory. Must have happened once exactly. And I think that's all I want to check. Why is the live unit testing not actually running? It's excluding that method for some reason. Come on. Oh, wait. It's not declared as a test. There we go. And it fails. Perfect. To be expected, obviously. What we need now is a call. So, for each item in tiles, select many key value. Wait, what? Oh, because it's the tile collection. Tiles. Oh yeah. No, keys, values. Select many. Items. There we go. Item dot generate actions. This. There we go. Test succeed. Now we obviously have to, actually this is not what I want. This is actually dumb, because what I want to do instead is var actions is tiles dot values dot select many tt items dot generate select I dot generate actions this. This is actually what I want. Oh. Well, I guess I have to list it. Give me a second. Select many. I don't like how the brackets are behaving here. Okay. Now I got all the actions, and then the next step is to give the actions, like make some operations on the actions as well. 2 or 3 passing. What's going on with that? Oh, it's just because, yeah, the lens is looking at this, so, and not at the live unit testing, unfortunately. So now it should be 3 over 3. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go to bed now. Joop, joop. Edit. I action. And made factory. Should probably have this in 2 commits, to be honest. Edit. Action. And a list of actions to item. Made factory.generate next step. Create all actions, or create actions, or actions for all items. Commit and push. There we go. Great. Okay, good. Nice. So that works. And I now am relieved that I solved that big knot in my head. So, cool. Cool. Okay, yeah, as I said, I'm gonna head to bed. Was a short stream because I spent like an hour or so walking through my, walking circles in my room, figuring out this stuff before I started the stream. But there wasn't a stream planned today anyway, so I'm a 1% sure yet I will have. I'm not sure if I'll do one tomorrow. It depends on how much. If I'm gonna be busy with preparing for DPL or something. Probably not though. Not much I'm gonna do. I have to send something. Oh, I can do all that more. Blah. Yeah, no. I think I'm probably gonna stream tomorrow, but no guarantees. So yeah. Thanks all for watching. Have fun and see you next time.